Could you tell me what are the new features for safety you guys have added in your products in recent years for
So,
safety?
so from a safety standpoint, we've been working on this for a long time. All the way from vehicle architecture design. Right? So, if you talk about the commercial vehicles specifically, and we're going to talk about it in the next panel discussion as well. There are a lot of challenges in terms of how commercial vehicles ply on the roads, very congested, very heterogeneous kind of traffic. So it's very important to, first of all, give the driver of the commercial vehicle a very clear vantage point from which they can observe the traffic around them and to be able to react to whatever is coming in their way, right? So we start with sort of best in class cabin that we have designed, for instance, right? It goes beyond the regulatory requirements in terms of providing for visibility, all round visibility, and there's a comfortable cabin as well, right? And these are elements. Why is this important? Because the driver is always distracted in the context of the Indian ecosystem, probably a lot more than elsewhere. They're checking their phones, they're doing various things. So it's very important for them to be, one, comfortable, so that they can do this fatigue free, and two, make sure that they're able to get a full visibility of the cabin. So this is sort of from the design principles itself, right? Now, obviously, we give our vehicles very good lighting as well. Beyond again regulations. So we've given composite headlamps in our Blazo vehicles. And why is that important? Because again, you can see the traffic a whole lot better.
Okay.
Thereby, you have a better time to react to what's happening. Now, of course, in terms of how we design vehicles with materials, we use a lot of high-strength steels to make sure that we can give a lightweight yet very strong cabin and a strong vehicle per se. Right? Why is that important? In case there is an accident, the driver is protected, the cargo is also protected, but we also make sure that our vehicles are compatible with other vehicles in terms of overall crash. If there's a crash that should happen, God forbid, we make sure that they are compatible. The government does its roadworthiness part of it, right? But then we do more than that in terms of our design, in terms of compatibility with cars, because cars are sitting lower. Right?
Correct.
So there's a lot of things that go in terms of just what we would call passive safety, in terms of design of the vehicle, design of architecture, how you do the layout, where does the driver sit, and so on and so forth. Now, if you come to actual operation, right? When it comes to operation, there's, again, as I said, there's so many things that distract the driver. And so it's important for us to make sure that the driver can pay attention, right? So we offer a very good instrument cluster so that it's very easy to read and only the required messages are there.
Okay.
So they don't have to sift through too many things to understand what's going on in the vehicle.
Okay.
We also provide what we call our IMAX telematics connected vehicle solution, right? Which does a lot of things for the driver and for the owner, the fleet owner as well, in the back end.
Okay.
So that the driver doesn't have to do a lot of that monitoring. So all these are avoiding distractions, which the driver otherwise will need to do, perhaps. They used to maintain logbooks and things of that nature. So when we do a connected solution, a digital solution, they don't have to do all those things. And again, it helps the drivers focus on this. Now, there are other technologies which we were just discussing in the earlier session, right? Which we are ready to offer. For instance, like there is driver drowsiness monitoring. There is we have done a smart truck concept vehicle several years ago, actually pre-COVID. Unfortunately, the demand for features like that is very, very muted right now in the ecosystem. But we do believe that hopefully soon the market demand will go up, or else we'll be mandated to offer that, right? So that there is a level playing field. Dr. Seshu was talking about 7,000 rupees for a radar, right? So there are various solutions that we have also demoed along with other OEMs that are ready for market. but we'll need to probably move forward on those along with
How is it
legislative help.
challenging to when it's not mandatory from the government, but when you implement such kind of a technologies for safety, especially for the drivers and the co-passengers, how is it difficult to implement this kind of a technologies when you know the exact the landscape of the commercial vehicle?
Yeah, yeah. See, the challenge is that the market is not willing to pay for these technologies at
Right.
this point in time. That is changing because there are a few progressive fleets that are looking at these kind of technologies and they want to incorporate these technologies. So as more and more fleets come into play, right, and there's more demand, more pull from the market, will be much easier to deploy these
Correct.
kind of technologies. Technologies are available. We've also integrated those into our vehicles, and they're ready, you know, in a way, right? But that pull has to come from market. Currently, the market is not willing to pay for it.
Yeah. Apart from the cost, what are those big challenges for you guys to implement these technologies in your product or in your truck and buses?
See, there are always technical challenges, but technical challenges can be overcome.
Yes.
Right? We as an OEM and other OEMs as well, I'm sure have made a lot of progress on the technical side. So the technical side is one part of it. The other aspect which I mentioned is the market or the demand side, you know, where there needs to be pull created. And then I think there is a nudge which is also required from the government side in terms of policy, so that we can finally make this happen in the market, right? The other aspect which was touched upon in the earlier session as well is the existence of very old trucks on the roads, right? Because trucks can get extended, you know, as of now, as long as PUC is being done and so on. So there are very old vehicles on the road, and these vehicles have been homologated to earlier safety regulations, probably 20 years ago and so on, right? And safety regulations have progressed very significantly in India since then. So as long as we have this mix and match of vehicles on the road, it becomes very challenging to deliver, you know, true road safety, you know, from a vehicle standpoint alone, right? So we're not sitting back and waiting for the vehicles to get all the features. Again, we're ready with the features. But we also need to focus a lot in terms of driver training, driver awareness. How can they use these technologies? And there's a driver shortage, which we discussed as well earlier, right? So in all of this, the people who are driving these large commercial vehicles, particularly, they are of course licensed, but they don't necessarily have the experience to deal with any eventuality on the road, you know. So more of driver training, more of awareness of what kind of scenarios to avoid, more of driver monitoring as well through telematics systems, and giving some proactive alerts as to when the drivers are getting into unsafe scenarios, right? And all this can be observed from the back end through telematic solutions. So these are things that we are already offering in terms of ensuring that, you know, the driver experience and the overall road experience is, you know, can be safer.
Okay. Being one of the largest commercial vehicle producers in India, what initiatives you guys are taking to enhance the skill of the drivers, to make them understand this new technologies? Because as you know that, you know, it's a very scattered market, commercial. So what are the initiatives you guys are taking to make them aware about the new technologies and safety?
That's a great question, because what you say is a very critical element of how do we make roads safer, right? So one is obviously in terms of the selling of the product itself, the features that are in the product. But as you said, it goes beyond that. You know, the drivers have to be educated in terms of how to drive the product, what are the scenarios they need to look out for. They should be able to get reasonable alerts and be able to understand the alerts so that they can drive safer, right? So one aspect of it is basically, you know, training them on the truck, right? In terms of, you know, how do they operate a particular vehicle safely.
Okay.
These days, a lot of that, previously a lot of this used to happen in classrooms and so on. These days, a lot of it is happening digitally as well. You know, so we provide digital content which can be given in snippets so that they can consume it, and understand how to deal with different scenarios. There are through SIAM as an industry body as well. There are many road safety initiatives which we are also part of as an OEM. So there are various ways in which we can deliver the inputs to the drivers, right? And that is something that we are a part of as well. When you talk about telematics, of course, each OEM has different levels of solutions. We at Mahindra have a very advanced telematic solution that we have deployed since BS6 since 2020. And that can give the driver a lot of alerts in terms of whether they are doing rash accelerations or whether doing hard braking and things of that nature, right? So that you develop a driver score as well. And the driver also has an incentive to do better in terms of their driving score. Working with transporters, and there are many large transporters who are also equally sensitive on this issue. So we can work with transporters to actually incentivize drivers. And those are also being done at various levels. Incentivize drivers for good driving behavior, right? So that there is something potentially monetary, or there's a recognition given to them for being a responsible part of the ecosystem.
Great. And my last question: what safety features or technologies do you see in the next 10 years, which will change the entire industry?
That is a question of scenario planning, I think, because your question is very deep. I think certainly some level of autonomous braking is something that we would probably need, in our vehicles, in the Indian ecosystem, because there is a lot of heterogeneous traffic on the road. Suddenly somebody shows up, somebody crosses the road and so on. And the driver is not necessarily always in a position to react to that. There are other distractions on the road as well. So I think braking is one area where I see definitely technological advances that are available from a technology standpoint, but I see that getting implemented probably much faster compared to other things, for instance, like self-driving and so on and so forth. We need to assist the driver to understand their environment better. So we don't need to, we're not trying to remove the driver from this ecosystem. Maybe in Europe, that could be, an approach for them. But in India, we definitely need the driver. The driver is at the center of the action, and whatever we can do to assist the driver to be able to respond better. Blind spot monitoring is a possibility, but again, how close two-wheelers and everybody else comes to the vehicle. So if you have a blind spot system, blind spot monitoring, the system will always keep beeping. So then the driver becomes very insensitive to what that system does.
True, absolutely.
So there are various technologies, but I think braking related technologies, braking assist, autonomous braking, collision warning, these are things that would probably progress a lot faster than certain other technologies which are available but probably not ready for the Indian ecosystem.